Welcome to Chill Under Pressure. I'm Adam.
I'm Les.
I'm John.
I'm Rich.
And we get Rich back today for a take two, a second round.
Right.
We talked a lot about Rapid and our history there and kind of getting that started from the ground up. And even before that, we went into RMS. And actually, you just picked up one of a historic relic here.
That's right.
Tiny tank. So
Tiny tank.
Steve, if you're out there, we still have Tiny Tank.
That's right. I took that on Win Dixie with me.
Yeah, took pictures.
Yeah. The traveling
Tank
Tiny
crossing.
Tank.
Where is
The Adventures of Tiny Tank.
Tiny Tank traveling to?
Yeah.
Steve did it too. He went on a trip and took it. It was like a flat Stanley thing. But one of the two of you has a picture of Tiny Tank held up by a sign that says Tank Xing.
Yeah. I think that was Steve came back with it.
Yeah.
If I can find it, we'll post it. It's pretty fun. So anyway, we like I said last time, we talked a lot about kind of the history of the industry, for all the reclaim industry, right from the get go all the way through kind of the Rapid days and all the memories. But I wanted to get you back on because I really wanted to dig into how reclaim works, like nerd it up a little bit and really get into the separation.
Yeah. So like when people want to reclaim a chiller, we really want to get into that.
Got the wrong word.
But it's used so often.
That's just a different show.
Yeah, I fought that for years.
Definitions,
It
words.
doesn't really make much sense anyway. I mean, why the EPA did that, I have no idea. But
Words mean things, I guess.
Well, they have the 3 R's.
That's
Yeah.
right. Recovery, recycle, reclaim.
What are they? Again? And really, there's reuse because everybody who recycles, they're not really recycling; they're just reusing gas.
Right.
yeah, right.
So
That's right.
That was always a challenge for the reclaim industry.
I put a filter on it. It left my recovery cylinder.
They just put it right back
It's
in.
not
Those
the technical
filters-
definition of recycling.
those filters really remove non-cons. Like they're fantastic at that.
Well, that's the thing about
anyway.
reclaim is you have a list of things that you have to meet.
Mhm.
And you have to test for it and make sure that you actually meet it every time. And some of them are easy and some of them are tough.
Yeah.
But like oil, getting oil out of refrigerant is not very difficult. You just distill it, boil the refrigerant off, and the oil stays behind. And don't do that. I get in trouble every time I come here.
That's why we keep having you back.
Yeah.
So yeah, oil's easy, basically.
Yeah. Well, that is the definition of the recycle, right? This is basically the oil removal process from the
Well, it's
refrigerant.
supposed to be non-cons. They're supposed to get the air out of it.
Recycling is really only used in the auto industry anyway. It's
Right.
like they basically is just fancy filtration.
Yep.
It's not much more than that. But
It does have non-condensable purge on it,
Yeah.
which I don't know how well it works. But
Mhm.
yeah, have you seen those? They look like little recovery machines on wheels. And
Yeah.
they're like, how good can you really do non-con out of that?
my experience is non-con is not really that easy.
Mhm.
It's a challenge to get it where it needs to be. But oil's easy. Water, that's another one. Moisture. That's not necessarily difficult. Usually when you boil off the refrigerant, a lot of the standing water stays behind with the oil. But then you run it through desiccant. The little packets that you get when you buy electronics have desiccant in it.
Oh yeah.
And we use that, but we had great big huge cylinders full of it. So you pass the refrigerant through that and it would take take the moisture out of the refrigerant, and then you could rejuvenate it. You could blow hot air through it.
And you built, Rapid, we had stands, right, where there's like 4 cylinders.
Yeah.
And so you'd run through one and then you could rotate through and dry
Yeah.
one while another one was being used.
Some people think you can use a big tub of desiccant, but if you do that, it'll find a path through it and it won't. The outside desiccant, or sometimes it goes up the side of the tank. And so you don't get anything happening in the middle. So we decided we're going to use smaller tubes, like 6-inch,
Mm-hmm.
and then just line them up. So go out
Series.
into one and out of the next.
Yeah.
And that worked better.
Those are cool rigs. I mean, it was like, so just to set the framing of this, the reclaim industry was really founded by guys who understood the physics and processes that were involved with the refrigerants because it didn't exist, right? People were like, well, oil and gas does this and so does that. So you're taking these concepts, well, how do we get this to happen here? And it started with, well, like, let's just distill it, right? We'll boil off the liquid and leave behind the sediment and the oil and standing water. Yep. And now we've got this stuff that's got humidity level water in it. And we've got, non-condensables still in it. And so how do we get rid of those? And so, every problem you solve, you go, well, well, let's get a big vat of desiccant. We'll just slowly move the refrigerant through it because that'll allow it to do it. And Rich, at the time discovered, well, it seems to find a path, and yet half the desiccant's perfectly dry and half of it's not. Huh. And so he ended up the team built racks of these drying tubes, and they would run in series, and then you'd have there was a built-in giant industrial blow dryer, hair dryer, I don't know what else to call it. And we would feed air through that. And so you'd have one of these tubes in this rack that would be regenerating all the time. Yep. There was nonstop regenerate one. And when that one was ready, you would, even if the desiccant was still good for the next ones, you didn't take the chance. You just rejuvenate, switch it over to the next one, recover the gas out, get it down to a deep vacuum, rotate the whole in-out valve set. I mean, it was all valves, so you could just the second one became the first one, and so on, and so it just rotated through.
That was kind of the cool thing about it. By doing with 4 of them like that, you have one drying and you have the other 3 drying out the refrigerant. But typically when the refrigerant comes into the first one that it hits, it spoils that one very quickly. And then the second one takes a little bit more out, and the third one, it's pretty much dry by the time it gets there. And you're just making sure that you got it low enough. And then when the dry one was dry, or the one that was being rejuvenated is dry, you put that as the last one. So it's
the driest,
just because it's picking up the last little bit of moisture. And then you just move them down the line. So the wettest one becomes the one that you're going to dry next.
Rejuvenate, yeah.
So you just step them down. That way you always have the worst one is the first one, and then the middle one, and then the driest one is.
That's really smart. What was your learning curve on something like that? So how many generations?
Rich doesn't have a learning curve. Like he came out of the womb a genius. I got this.
He bought a Van Steenberg, didn't work, so he rebuilt it. That's his learning curve.
Started out with a Van Steenberg. What a joke. Anyway, don't want to.
No, I mean, it was bad. Nobody knew what we were doing back then. That's not a dig on Van Steenberg. They were building equipment.
We're all trying to guess.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of like Adam says. That for me, that was a no-brainer. Right. This is a way to fix this problem.
Yeah. Just tackle one problem at a time.
That's right.
Yeah.
What's the next hurdle? Okay, we're not getting dry enough. Let's figure out how to dry and master it. Okay, we mastered that. Now, non-cons, we're getting it down there, but how much are we losing in the process?
Yeah,
okay,
that's the thing.
Sure.
Non-cons is a tough one. People think that the air is just going to rise to the surface like a pop, like soda. Carbonation comes out. And if you let it sit there long enough in atmosphere, it all comes out. But refrigerant doesn't work that way. The pressures involved hold. It's kind of like when the bottle has the lid on, the pressure in there holds the CO2 in the pop.
Yeah, there's no head on top of the bottle. It's all embedded inside the soda.
All embedded. So it's getting non-condensables out of refrigerant is more difficult.
And not that it's hard. It's just it's not as easy as you'd think.
Yeah.
One of the myths that we just did a podcast recently with a whole group of incredible influencers when we were at ESCO Excellence Conference. And one of the things that came out of that was there's still this misunderstanding that like burnout means that it's bad. Like burnout gas means it's like bad gas. So guys are going to the wholesaler and going, oh, this is burnout. And they say, oh, that's going to cost you. And so then they go back to their van and they vent it because they don't want to pay to get rid of it. But that myth has been dealt with since like 94. I mean, there's no. Yeah,
so we never operated that way.
No.
Like
burnout goes with the rest as long as it's one refrigerant.
Right.
Yeah, burnout was just never an issue because it comes out. The acidity that's in is mostly in the oil. And so you get rid of the oil, you get rid of most of the acidity, and then you can charcoal bath it. You guys had like kind of like the non-condense or not the non-condense, kind of like the desiccant dryers. You had some that were designed to take the residual tiny amount of acidity that's still left
Acidity
out.
Yep.
but
Basically a
charcoal.
basic powder that was base. When you run it through, and the acidity would be neutralized by the base. I forget what it was. It was, can't remember.
That's all right. We don't need away trade
It's been
secrets.
long enough.
Don't want to give away all the trade secrets. So, I mean, reclaim is you used to tell me, like, it's because I was asking about how separation works, which is where I want to go next. You would tell me it's single plate distillation.
Yeah.
Reclaim is like, and so you're going to get into fractional distillation on it in a minute here, but what is that? What is a plate? Like, I'm picturing like a piece of metal and there's stuff on it. Like, no, okay. That's what I thought the first time you said it.
That's what I imagined. I imagined.
I didn't get that. I came out of the womb with the genius that Rich did. So I'm like, hey, dumb it down.
No learning curve. Yeah. Negative.
In oil, when they take oil out of the ground and they put it in a tower and they separate all the different components out, they call them plates because they literally is a steel plate inside of there that runs across. And that's how a tower works, basically. But with refrigerant, oil, if you looked at all the components that are in there and their molecular weight, it's like this big.
To like axle grease on one end to like
Exactly.
lighter fluid on the other.
They're talking about Iran on the news all the time, and they take the nastiest, dirtiest stuff that's left when it's all done, and they run their power plants on it. It's like nasty stuff. But anyway, with refrigerant, if you looked at oil like this, refrigerant is like this. All of them are all compacted into this really close molecular weights together.
So like boiling points? Like,
yeah.
Okay.
So it's really difficult to get them to separate, where oil's easy. I mean, it's difficult.
Comparatively
Easy. Whereas refrigerant is not. And of course, that's one of the big challenges that we have as reclaimers, is to get the separation going. So we decided, first off, the best thing you can do to separate is to not mix it in the first place.
That's step one in separation.
Step one of separation.
Don't mix it up.
Don't mix it up.
It's also the law, so.
Well, that doesn't really help.
Interestingly, secret back and knowledge, from what I understand, there's changes coming to that. That doesn't say you can't mix. Like, it basically takes that away because fractional distillation exists and separation exists. That people don't think if I mix it, it's forever ruined anymore on the testing side. So I think there's some movement there to try to.
Well, and with all the blends and stuff, there's
almost
more
impossible.
Yeah,
the rainbow of refrigerants.
I'm glad I'm not doing it anymore, because with all the different refrigerants that are out there.
Oh, and the flammability stuff, A2s, A3s.
You got to deal with the flammability issue, and doing that inside of a refrigerant plant is very difficult. Because now all of a sudden all kinds of rules come into play.
Yeah. You're pumping this stuff all over the place. It's in pipes. I mean, we had in our plant in Peoria, Arizona. There was 1 million pounds in that plant all the time. Like, that was in the process of coming in the door, getting reclaimed, getting bulked, getting separated, coming out the other end, getting tested, making sure it all passed and everything, and then packaging. So in the flow, it was pretty well constant, million two, just nonstop in that plant. It's a wild thing to think about, just having 1 million pounds in flow.
Super impressive.
Yeah. So our goal first thing was keep it as separate as possible. So that's why we use smaller tanks, because people would put 1,000 pounds together, and it was almost guaranteed that there'd be something in there that didn't belong in there. So, and the rule is 1/2 of 1%. So
it had to be 99.5% pure of one type.
Of one type of refrigerant. Exactly. Which, none of it came back that way.
Yeah.
Out of 100 pounds in a cylinder, had to be less than 1/2 pound of something else.
Right.
And so back in the day, way back, before fractional distillation was working, people were experimenting with trying it to work. It would work. Some guys were doing it, but in really low volumes, because doing it at scale is different than doing it at a lab type level. Yep. and so the industry's solution was dilution.
Dilution.
Yeah,
That's right.
So if you had 98%, you throw you 4x it with 100% perfectly pure stuff, and you'd get down to what you need to do.
Mhm.
And so this was the whole industry mantra: dilution is the solution. And the EPA came back now, and they're like, no. Now reclaim, in order to be called reclaim, can only have 15% virgin material in it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We used to we would bring in a whole ISO of virgin of
New produced.
pure new material and mix it with, 1,000 pounds of slightly crossed.
Yeah. And that was industry standard. So everybody did, because fractional distillation wasn't a thing. So, all right. So if single plate distillation is reclaim, right? So you boil it off, and by boiling it, I mean refrigerants boil at, they would, if you put a cup of refrigerant on the counter, it would violently boil until there was nothing left. And that would be true of other than the low pressure refrigerants, and even they would be boiling at room temperature. Yep. And so you're talking like if you put 410 in a cup on a counter, first it would make your hand very, very cold holding the cup. And it would just boil off really fast. So you're doing this in a contained, pressurized environment.
Right.
But it's the same idea. You're adding heat and turning liquid refrigerant, and you're lowering the pressure on the other side and letting the vapor move across, right? Like that's the gist of it.
So we made sure that the stuff didn't get crossed as much as we could. And then dilution was our solution. It was everybody's solution. And finally, we got to the point where you couldn't get enough new material to take care of your old stuff, and we started bulking it up. So finally we built a tower, and the way a tower works is you have a tank at the bottom and a tank at the top, essentially, and you boil the refrigerant off the bottom, and it travels up this tube all the way to the top where it condenses. So you're cooling at the top and you're heating at the bottom.
So the tube is like an
8-inch diameter steel pipe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Filled with like aluminum shavings, or so it looks like
that
it.
was
Or
the trick. At the start, nobody knew what you had to put in it, so they experimented with a lot of stuff. But it ended up, people tried filling them with coins because it gives you a lot more surface area. That's the trick. You got to get as much surface area as you can
for heat transfer. Like you need a place for some refrigerant to boil off, another to condense, right? On some kind of metal
inside the pipe. So you're not just condensing at the top; you're condensing as it's coming up. And of course, what happens when you have a reflux, and you take what's at the top, which is cold, and you pump it back into the top of the tower, and it falls down through the tower as the vapor is coming up, and the heat transfers between them, and the lights go up and the heavies go down. So if you have two refrigerants and they have slightly different molecular weights, one will go down and one will go up. And
if you have 7 different refrigerants, you put soup in it.
Then what you do is you target one under the other for purity. So you set your temperatures and your flow rates and everything else so that the first one gets stripped out, goes to the bottom. So if you had R11 mixed in with a 22, you're trying to get the R11 to go down to the bottom, and the 22 would just stay at the top. And you just do it until there's no more 11 up here. You will never get rid of the 22 down here, but you get one of them to purity on one end or the other. So if you have 7, you're going to do that one at a time.
Just keep working it until you can peel off whatever the good one is.
If pures are going to the bottom, then you peel off the pure off the bottom until you can't get any more. And then you move on to the next.
So you've got this tower. Inside is like this shredded up pop can that's custom made and engineered to have exact spacing. It's like propeller kind of like laced, right? Like they're just all stacked out in these layering kind of thing. And so then the vapor refrigerant is boiling up through the tower. Liquid refrigerant is coming down through this little shower head thing at the top, and they're intermixing in the tower. And as they hit this metal in there, some are condensing and some are boiling off. And so the lighter ones go up and the heavy ones go down. And so across the tower, like there's no like, okay, here's where it happens. Like, here's the moment, right? I mean, like.
That was my next question. Like, when do you know what's pure
That was everybody's question.
Yeah.
We all wanted to see inside of a tower.
Right.
Right.
So Rich goes,
how do you optimize the tower? I mean, you can get it to work,
yeah.
but your actual purity may be right at the bottom, and everything above that is basically just trying to
wasted space.
moving its way down.
And it's like what was it, 30-foot taller, 30, 35 feet?
Ours,
Yeah, the one you
how
used.
tall was that thing?
Came out through the
So
roof.
35, I think, is about right because we
Yeah.
were 42 feet total when they had exhaust fan on top and
Yeah.
yada.
So
So the idea was we wanted to be able to see inside of it. Like
Mhm.
you want to see like what's like
Yeah.
it would be really cool if it was glass and you could like literally see the thing happening.
And the refrigerants were all different colors.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wouldn't be all that cool if you couldn't see the different colored refrigerant.
Pink,
it all
green.
looks like
We first tried
air
to
and
go
water.
through chemistry and figure out if we could color code the refrigerant. No. So we had this small gas chromatograph, and it was designed to be really fast and really like it worked really well. So we had these. We won't get into how a GC works, but anyway, the gas chromatograph is testing the refrigerant, and we would use this on every cylinder that came in the door, so we could stop from mixing it before we started.
Right.
And then we also said, well, let's get one of these guys. This is Rich's idea. Let's get one of those guys. Let's put like an auto rotating like valve on it, and let's test on like I don't know what it was, 6 or 8 points. I think it was 8, but the bottom tank, like what's the feedstock going? The top tank with the reflux that's going out or going back in the top. And then let's take a bunch of samples up and down this tower. So, and it would just rotate. And it was 90 seconds per. It would take a sample and rotate. And so it's all bleeding through these lines. So you're always getting a fresh sample. And so it would just rotate this little sampler, and it would kick out on this graph. And so you could see in real time what the purity levels were all across the tower.
Mhm.
And so you graph that out, and suddenly you're like, oh, well, we're not making the most out of the tower. We need to turn up the reflux, a little bit more reflux, or more heat, or whatever. And you would figure out how to get right to the edge. And like it was flying, we call it flying the tower. It was going as fast as you possibly could by getting as much of the separation column to be utilized as possible.
Exactly.
And I remember I was so proud of myself. I wasn't really allowed to fly that tower after like 3 weeks, probably because I was on an airplane and I paid for the internet, and I was there on my tablet flying the tower, making adjustments. And I was like, I'm flying the tower while I'm flying. And then my access got turned off. Pretty sure they're like, yeah, you crashed the tower.
You crashed the tower.
I crashed. I was pushing too hard, lost my internet, and
Oh,
and they're just like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore because you need to be here, present.
We gave you too much leash and
Too much on myself.
We were trying to optimize the speed of the tower, and then he would push it over the edge.
Mhm.
Just a
and
little bit faster.
Spoil the whole thing.
back to the learning curve. No.
You got to start all over.
So I got view only access after that. So lame. It was so neat. And then, it started to work. And I think there's that, I remember just the kind of pure elation of, holy crap, it's working. It's working. Like, it's alive, kind of a moment where you just have this super excitement. I mean, it works in theory, it works on paper. And then when you build it, you're like, fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a guess.
There's $1.5 million on the line. Let's hope
Yeah.
this
Let's turn the
works.
sucker on.
Let's roll.
I remember the first batch we did was 134A.
Yeah.
Wow.
It had like, I don't know, 5 or 6% 22 in it.
Mm-hmm.
And we ran it, and overnight we came up with pure 134A.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think we ran like 300,000-ish pounds of 134A because we just kept going. So what we found is, okay, well, we're already running, so we don't have to recover the tower. We don't have to start over to put something else in. But we fed in, the starting stock has to be reclaimed.
Yeah.
So you have to get all the oil, moisture, acidity, non-condensables. All that has to be out for this process to work. So it's pure refrigerant. It's just not pure one type of refrigerant.
Right.
And so we started with like the best 134A that wasn't blendable at the time. And we fed that in and we got pure out and it was working. So we fed that whole batch. And then we're like, well, do we stop? No, we don't want to stop.
So to break that down a little more, maybe layman's, it's everything going into the tower is reclaimed standard other than the fact it's multiple refrigerants.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it passed every test except for OR, other refrigerants.
Right. So, and that's where our tower was different than any that I've seen in that everybody did it in batch. So they'd put I mean, they started out putting 1,000 pounds in the bottom and start boiling it and run it until they had 1,000 pound or 800 pounds of pure, and the rest was stuff at the top or the bottom, whichever. But we said, once you get it in balance, it makes sense just to keep adding more.
Sure.
So that's exactly what we did. We would, when the bottom was pure, we'd put more across in the top, and then we'd start pulling the pure off the bottom. And then, we could run 300,000 pounds in batch.
Well, it's because we ran out.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually you're like, okay, what we've got is not worth.
And also when we brought it in and we tested it to see what it was, we kind of separated the really good stuff from the not so good stuff. So you'd start out running the tower on the really good stuff. You get it all in balance, and you keep adding worse stuff
until you get a different result.
I mean, finally you get to 50-50, 22 and 134A or whatever and 134A.
Yeah.
And then it wouldn't be able to get it to 99.5 on the bottom.
The tower. So in order to do that, it would need to be taller.
Yep.
Like you need more separation, time, distance. And so the 50-50, it's not like it's bad. It just meant you were going to split it until it got to 95.
Right. So
and then you'd run it again.
Normally what we do is we take it to the bottom to 99.5, so it meets the purity. And when we couldn't get that anymore, we'd start pulling that off and putting it in a different tank, and it would end up being 95%.
And that would be perfectly wonderful feedstock for.
Yeah, that's a feedstock to continue. So basically what we do is we run it through the tower twice once it got to the point where it wouldn't be pure anymore. So
what's the most that you ran through on a cycle? Like on one batch, you could run it through once, twice. What's the most that you ran?
I mean, you just keep going. So, because what you get is the worst of the worst of the worst soup, where it's like 10 different things. Because remember, your volume's going down, so the concentration of other goes up.
Yeah.
And so you end up with 5-7 components all in at 10-15%. It's just ugly. And so you would stick that away in a corner, because not that it wasn't salvageable, you wouldn't destroy it. You would just wait until you had tower time. And then you would go after the hard stuff, or you'd wait till there was a value. One of those, that 15% of something turned into liquid gold all of a sudden, and it was worth going after.
Yeah, 12
market
did that.
change.
Like a 12 or maybe a 404 or 507 these days, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, 507 and 404 are just sisters. It's just the same gas, just a little 134A in there.
That's right.
So, Rich mentioned the concept of you just store it up and then run another batch. One of the techniques, other plants, when they have space to do this, or when they have a lot of volume, they'll just go from one tower right into another in series.
Gotcha.
So you take the 95 that's coming out and you just run it through another tower, and then that one gets it there.
Yeah.
And so pretty soon, if you have like 4 of these in a row, now you, instead of having a tower that's 35 feet, you've got a tower that's whatever that is, 130 something feet, right? So, I mean, you're way up there, and now in a 130-foot tower, you're able to get all the way to the end. I mean, you could push.
And you're condensing time. That's great. This is fascinating. Like, this is a really fascinating part of the business.
We didn't do a ton of that because we had so much feedstock. It was like, we could keep going, but instead let's have 4 independent towers going after the best of the best. And then when we get through the best of the best, and in our world, the business was growing so fast and the volume of gas coming in was so fast. It was like, we'll get to that stuff later. And later just kept being later. Because
you want to pull out what you can sell for the most money.
Right.
What's demand? I mean, I was talking to some friends in the reclaim space just the other day, and they were mentioning that, they have huge volumes of 410A right now that are going to help bridge the gap for a supply shortage that's coming, because right now there's more than enough 410A. There's more than enough components to make 410A and reconstitute 410A. But in a few years, at 2029, when the next reduction comes, there'll be a supply shortage, and so it'll be coming out of reserves. It'll be coming out of inventory stock. It'll be coming out of gas that's been sitting in the wings that might have
Yeah.
3% 22 in it.
And you can add to that if we increase recovery rates, you'll have a better
Oh yeah,
stockpile.
Yeah, that's
because that won't last very long.
That won't
I mean,
last
they're not
very
sitting
long.
on.
Nope.
You think about the
They're not
amount of
talking
volume. There's 108 million pounds of refrigerant a year used for service gas right now. It's an estimate from the EPA. And so you think about, all the reclaimers combined last year did 18 million pounds of reclaim. So even if they were sitting on all of the gas that they collected for 5 years, they're still not at 1 year's worth of volume. So their stockpiles aren't going to last long.
Right.
It's just that's
Gotta
part
do
of
that.
where people,
Sure.
the industry will draw on. That's what we used to do. You'd go, 410's going up in price. Let's go tackle some 410. 22 is really expensive, and we have demand. Let's go get the 22 out. So,
Yep.
it's market supply and demand stuff.
Well, that recovery rate from 6% to 40 would be fantastic for you contractors who can get refrigerant here in a few years.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a supply problem in a few years. So.
Well, we ran into the exact same thing as the rules developed. Originally, it was all about 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then 12 was just plain pretty much gone.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it was gone because it was being used for automotive. So you don't get much recovery out of an automotive air conditioner that stops working.
Usually because it hits the front end on something else and there's
Right.
not
Yeah.
a gas
Yeah,
left.
because it's gone. Yeah.
So anything that ran in automotive, the automotive sucked up all the 12. And everybody was about 12. I mean, we were looking at it and going, okay, 12 is great. It's $8 a pound or whatever it was at that time. And 22 was 75 cents a pound. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, why would you bother with 22? But it's there, and there's a lot of it. So we finally, took the position that we have to figure out how to run our systems so that you can make money on 22.
Back when it was $1 a pound.
Back when it was
Right.
a buck
Yeah,
a pound.
and your DOT disposable cylinder costs you $8 or whatever, right?
Yeah. A third of the cost is
A third of
consumed
the
in the
cost.
can. A third of it is consumed in transportation. So you have to do everything else on the
That's
third.
right. So
Include make money.
we looked at it and said, okay, these guys that are doing this and trying to collect 12, they're spending $3 a pound to make it good.
Yeah.
And we're going, you can't do that. You got to figure out how to make this work at $1 a pound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
75 cents is almost impossible. But
you got to clean it for 25 cents. You got to clean it for 20 and get it in a can, not the
And-
can itself, but be able to get a
Right.
can ready for 25 cents.
so if you take that approach and really work at it, then when you do get some 12, you make a lot more money on it.
Yeah.
Because you can do that the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And, when other refrigerants came along, 22 went through the roof for a while.
Yeah.
We were sitting
It's still
on-
pretty,
Is it?
pretty pricey.
I don't follow it anymore. 'cause
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're
Well, do you-
tired. You're not
You don't think about
Well,
that.
on Wednesday, April 1st, right? I LinkedIn, the first thing I saw was EPA votes to bring back R22. I'm like, today's the first.
Yeah.
but there are
First.
people who are like, yeah, like that ain't
good old
happening,
days
man.
are-
That is not happening.
The funny thing is, the good old days were like people were like, "Oh, the good old days when we had 410A," and it's like when 410A came out, they're like, "Where were the good old days when we had 22?" And then it was like, "Where are the good old days with 12?" And like we keep going back. The good old days are always some date in the past.
I always thought it was funny because we'd walk into contractors all day long, and in the back, they'd have all these pallets of gas. It'd be 12 and 22, and they're like, "Well, yeah, we want to buy gas from you." Like, well, what about all that supply? Oh, no, that's the owner's retirement back there.
Retirement.
We don't touch that.
Yeah.
so
I
they
know
buy a
There's a lot
pallet.
of people that made that mistake.
Yeah.
You better know when to sell it then.
Right.
Market timing.
Yep.
I remember I was a kid. I started working for Rich. I was 14 at the time, and not when I asked the question. I don't know how old I was. It was too smart of a question for a 14-year-old. But I was like, why don't you just collect it and like keep it? The price keeps going up. And he's like, you don't make money doing that. You make money turning it. You buy it, you make money on this between then and sell, and then you buy it again, and you just keep doing it. Like you don't make money just hoarding it and waiting for the price to get to something and then selling it. That's a speculative strategy, and it takes a ton of capital, and it's super risky, and you don't make as much money.
And there were guys that did it.
Yep.
A lot of
And
guys.
they would collect up 12, and they had stockpiles of 12. And 12 went from $25 a pound to $6 a pound.
I learned something about 12 just a couple days ago. So I'm a pilot on the side. I like to fly a plane, and I was at the shop, and they had an old airplane there that still ran on R12. And I said, why don't you just convert it? And they're like, you can't. You're not allowed to convert. It has to be FAA approved. And for that system, so to do a conversion is like $80,000.
Wow.
So they're still stuck using 12 in some of these planes. So they have to go find it and source it. And then you're up against, in today's world, you're up against the carbon market, who that gas is a ton of value destroyed.
Right.
It's more dead than alive.
Right.
That's right.
So
in your sweat box up there.
yeah. So if you've still got 12 out there, there's still a market for it. Now is the time. Now is the time.
Right.
Go to your little auto mechanic or your aviation mechanic in town, and I'm sure you'll gladly buy a 30-pound jug that's sitting in your garage.
Absolutely.
So
I did not know that either.
yeah, it's wild.
Interesting.
Man, that went really fast. Any last questions that you're dying to know the answers to, or thoughts from the show that we can tap into Rich's brain one more time?
Well, I just think it's fascinating that this all came about because your current reclaimers back then couldn't handle the amount of gas that you were pushing. So it's fun to hear the story how this all got spun up, and because I missed this whole segment of the business when you guys are spinning up. So it's fun to see that bridge gap. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean that was it. Rich had done the reclaim gig at RMS at the beginning.
So cool.
And then at Rapid, it was like, we have this equipment. We already had the equipment. It was mothballed. We were just sitting on it.
Yeah.
And we just couldn't get the reclaimers to. I mean, because they didn't really want to do it for 22, and that's what the volume was.
Well, they couldn't keep up with cylinders. They couldn't do it. There's a bunch of stuff.
Right, but they would have found a way if all that volume was 12 at the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe.
Sure. Right. So they would have bought all the cylinders in the world to get it done, but they weren't making any real money on 22, and they're like, but the volumes were there, and we just had to. So we finally pulled it out. Rich said, okay, well, we're going to go back into reclaim. And all that history, all that separation, all that stuff, at that scale that we were running, the volumes we were running, was all the result of that we had to.
Yeah.
You can't do a recovery if you don't have an empty cylinder.
That's right.
So
yeah, that was one of the things we were always up
all
against.
the steel.
Got to get those things emptied.
Yeah.
Got to turn
Tested
cylinders.
and emptied.
What about you, Rich? Anything you want to say about separation in general, or any nuggets
or anything else?
Life projects.
Yeah.
Life projects.
Yeah.
Whatever. Whatever you want to close with.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Thanks a lot.
Tell us a story about Adam when he was young. Let me help you
all
out.
these views.
I'm trying to feed this out there.
We kind of did that last time.
I think we enough razzing on that.
Went through quite a bit of that. Well, it takes a team, that's for sure. I mean, we had some really good people that would, follow the protocols and were willing to experiment on stuff, because I did a lot of experimentation. And they all chipped in and they got excited about it. It was a lot of fun. But separation was a real challenging thing.
But a game changer.
Yeah.
Revolutionary.
Really, you ended your career shortly after. I mean, retired after tackling one of the biggest challenges in your career and just conquering it. I mean, it was you went out with a bang, man. It was a ridiculously cool technology.
Yeah, and our separation towers were basically different than anybody else's because of the, being able to continue feeding feedstock and putting it in dirty and bringing it out clean at the same time.
Yeah.
And that was pretty unique. The whole idea of putting a GC along the tower so that you can see how pure that refrigerant was in that spot, that was nobody was doing that. It was funny because they'd take a sample on a syringe from the one end of the tower and test it, wait 10 minutes, and then go take the other end of the tower. It was crazy.
And meanwhile, in their 10-minute one sample on one end, we were getting the full top to bottom.
Yeah, 8 different samples.
Yeah,
The full spectrum.
every 15 minutes, the whole thing, because of how long they took. We just hit it.
And, Adam figured out how to graph it out. I'm not that good with computers, but I mean, we literally had a graph that showed what it was doing through the tower.
And you could watch them separate, which was really cool because at first all the lines were all clustered.
Yeah.
And then as time went on and as the tower got warmed up and got stable, you could see all the lines, all the different refrigerant types separate out. It was really neat. And of course,
Pretty cool.
it's each component. So 410's 2 lines. Anyway. was really neat.
So when we got bought, they took that and put it on the towers that they had at the company that bought us.
Yeah,
It's cool.
of course.
Well, guys, I think it's time. We'll have to get Rich out for a round 3 again some point here.
Yeah.
I'll have to think of something to talk about.
Well, thanks for coming out. It was really good to have you, and
Appreciate
to
it.
get to talk about some of the technical behind it was really neat. So,
Super cool.
all right. Well, thanks for joining us today. I'm Adam.
I'm Les.
I'm John.
I'm Rich.
We'll see you next time on Chill Under Pressure.
You bet.